following on from that, I'm going to go in a bit deeper and talk about basically an initiative that came out of FDS5 and that we've been building on since really January time. FDS5 was in Bangkok back in November. We've really kicked off this initiative since January and really picked up speed with it in February, March, which is this new group we've got within the Filecoin ecosystem that we call the Client Success Working Group. This is literally taken from our charter on our Notion page. I'm going to read it out because I love it. The purpose of this working group is to create a space to debug and accelerate the client onboarding pipeline in Filecoin. We'll review key pipeline metrics, debug and escalate any issues key on-ramps are running into, and accelerate successful client onboarding. What does that mean? How do we operate? We are a multidisciplinary ecosystem group, and we meet bi-weekly. We also have all of the usual Slack channels and groups and things that support that. And what we do is we track leads, mostly leads that are sourced from dstore.com, which is an initiative that Jen set up, and where it's basically one of the main sources of pipelines that comes. Some of it comes from Filecoin, some of it comes from other Filecoin.io, some of it comes from other places of qualified leads being tracked through HubSpot, pre-vetted by Jen in interview calls, and then targeted at different on-ramps once we've understood what their needs are. What it is delivering strong leads to on-ramps in order to, there's always a secondary objective, gather data on the pain points that those leads are experiencing, and also answer from other sources. And then the group itself gathers that data, and we're really focused on unblocking those pain points wherever they are in the stack or in the ecosystem. And it's very important. This isn't just a talking shop. It's really a place where we try and identify actionable fixes and then go to the right teams to get those implemented. How do we operate? This is part two. This is the typical report that Jen does every other week, which is, well, actually every week, the weekly pipeline summary. This is one from a couple of weeks ago. We'd seen a big spike in the growth of the pipeline with 100 TIBs added. I won't go through all of these, but basically we look at summary of like new deals that are coming in, how much those in terms of data volume they're worth, who we've passed them to, what kind of lead activity we're getting, and then also very importantly, looking at which deals get lost. Like after we do the initial interview, which ones either occasionally they ghost us, sometimes they have, when they get into more detail on the pricing, it seems that we're not currently quite the right fit, or that they can't find the right kind of on-ramp, but we're tracking that to do it. Who participates in the group? Well, us at the Filecoin Foundation, we have representation from Protocol Labs Filecoin Implementation Fund, Philos, Fiddle, and there are other participants in other groups. On-ramps are invited. It's actually a relatively small group, but we also reach out to other ecosystem participants as necessary. So yeah, that's fine. What have we been working on recently? As I said earlier, connecting on-ramps with vetted leads, market feedback, and sticking points that people are finding. We also have been going very deep with specific clients to understand and learn from their challenges. So my colleague Ian has been doing a very detailed piece of work with a substantial data set, basically working out like how easy or difficult it would be, the challenges he's been facing with trying to upload that data set via a bunch of different on-ramps and different tools in order to be able to compare them and learn from them. And from that, unblocking the client pain points and routing them through to success. It also involves identifying system-level improvements to Filecoin onboarding, either the user journeys, the messaging that we're using, on-ramps that might be missing because they have what the on-ramp selection that we have right now don't have a particular feature set. We may see some of that emerging. So some of this work will also lead into feedbacks into the core protocol and the core tooling that exists. One of the things we've been doing, the user experience team at Filecoin Foundation does a lot of work, what we call dog fooding. Dog fooding comes from the sort of Web 2 world, as the idea of eating your own dog food and using your own tooling in order to improve it. We don't quite do that. We sort of do this usage renounce more of a name to talk about sort of traditional user testing, but we do it in a way that I think is quite innovative. So basically every other week, just about every other week, we get a bunch of people in a room and we try and use one of the tools or platforms or websites or command line interfaces within the ecosystem. And we'll get maybe 10 people together. Actually, with 10 people and an hour, you can actually gather 50 or 60 bugs, data points, feedback on language, and really understand where people are getting stuck. On the back of that, we'll generate a report and sometimes some new designs like you're seeing on the right here. And we've been going through this particularly recently, targeting all of the on-ramps that we have. So Lighthouse, CID Gravity, Agave, and other tooling. The sessions are fun. People seem to enjoy doing them. It's a really good way to come along and spend some time really helping to improve the Filecoin ecosystem. We've also been, this launched yesterday, David Gasquez has been developing some improved metrics for tracking the storage, the on-ramps specifically. So this is Storacho. We can now compare them. We can look at them over time. And, this is, hopefully we will start to see the impact of the work we're doing in terms of delivering leads to them, and also to when the fixes we create get fed into their software development. We also, today, we just launched a tool. It's actually an open source tool called Lighthouse, where we are doing, it's basically pretty straightforward website performance reports, but these are now being generated automatically, and we're adding more sites to them over time. But we basically have all of the on-ramps in there. These, this sort of basic website performance stuff is important because it impacts SEO and impacts discoverability and impacts the user experience, and being able to track this in real time, we'll be able to get it fixed. We are also putting together some documentation and some testing and some tooling to help the on-ramps really productionize their offerings for the enterprise. This involves things all up and down the stack, like delivering, using better customer service platforms, having better customer service SLAs, like and then also alter into what type of uptime monitoring you're using. And we're kind of recommending a set of practices and a set of tools that they should all be deploying. And we're also putting together some planning to do what we call mystery shopping, which is a little bit like the work that Ian's been doing, but actually just having anonymous people out in the field, testing the experiences of uploading data to Filecoin via these platforms. We've also been working on some similar co-branding initiatives, so that there's a lot of sites out there that are powered by Filecoin and using Filecoin, or have data that's preserved on Filecoin, but it's not immediately obvious that they do so. And it will the exact wording we're going to use on this, I think it's going to take some debate to get us to the point we want to the final ones, and these are all work in progress. But we're going, it basically will enhance the cohesion and the of the Filecoin ecosystem, and sort of like people will be trusting Filecoin. We also did a small one of the part of the grants program, an IPNI reverse indexing grant. We've been doing a lot of work across the ecosystem on improving retrievals and retrieval verification, especially for Filecoin Plus. This was an additional piece of tooling that supports the checker network that powers that retrieval verification to improve the performance and the functionality there. What's on our radar coming up in the future? Helping on-ramps target and reach their ICPs more effectively, i.e. delivering go-to-market support. Jenny's going to talk about this some more in her session. One of the things that's come on the radar this week is we need to improve the IPNI Interplanetary Network Indexer performance, and particularly stability, because some of its success recently has started to impact the performance of that particular component, and we need to do a little bit of a deep dive to figure out why and how we fix that, and we're kicking that off now. And all this leads to the bigger picture stuff, which you'll be hearing about in other sessions, which is supporting the launch of PDP, the hot data service, and coming up after that, We're actually going to be forming a lot of the people in the client success working group at the moment are doing this. It's part of our job, but we're not doing it full time or 80% time. We're going to be forming a dedicated client success subgroup, possibly more than one subgroup. We are hiring who will be working on this more or less full time. We'll be hiring a product leader to drive this work forward. We will be continuing to refine the ICPs with more market research. And we'll be bridging the gap between now and the future, which is leading into all of the exciting work that's coming up with Filecoin Web Services. But really, it's about just continuing the work to accelerate and unblock client on-ramp onboarding and success, and then just iterating on that process. I always like to hear from people. I haven't actually put my email address on this slide. Clients, uploaders of data, we always want to hear about your experiences, both the good ones and especially the bad ones, so that we can help unblock those problems and fix them. And we would really like it if you came to work with us at FDS6 in person. As you know, we know the reason we're doing this sort of more presentational session now is so that at FDS6 itself, we can be extremely it's all going to be workshopped, it's all going to be really crunchy, real problem solving stuff, and it's going to be fun as well.